Hello, people. Here I am again. Created another exhibit to share some information with you. Um, Not a lawyer, I'm just talking by experience, but I like to share some information and just to throw a little bit of light on this subject because there is a lot of um, topics on the media about divorce, but uh, it doesn't seem to be. It seems to be biased, in my opinion. A lot of it, like 9 out of 10, has a little bit of bias on it. I just want to show something from my experience and share it, just to throw a little bit of light, like I said, on this subject. Okay, this time I want to talk about divorce factors. Okay, and I found this nice picture. I was playing with my kid, putting puzzles together and everything. And I really like that puzzle. And I took that picture that day, and it happens that now I like it to be, my intro for my exhibits. So this time I have divorce factors. I would like to talk about divorce factors because if we read the written law, it's simple, very simple. The difficulty is not the law. The law is not the difficulty. We all have parental rights, and that's the main subject right here. We all have parental rights, but it's been denied for the man. It's the main point. That's why this whole situation with the divorce is happening. It really doesn't happen to every man. There are, you know, good old boys that actually get it really easy because I have friends that have been through divorce that haven't had issues like a lot of people have had, trying to get their parental rights recognized on the court. And there is a lot of reasons for this. I'm not going to talk about it. It's a lot to talk about. But this time I just want to focus on divorce factors and the process that I have experienced. So I'm talking from experience and not a lawyer again. Uh, I'm trying just to help people, throw a little bit of light from my process into other people's life, okay? So let me keep going. Divorce factors, okay. If you go into the statutes, which is the written law, right? And you go to the divorce chapters, chapter 61 for the statutes talks about child support and time sharing. That's all it is. It's not difficult, simple, okay? And you know, um, if you read the purpose of this chapter, which is divorce, dissolution of marriage, time sharing, child support, the purpose is to preserve the integrity of the marriage, safeguard meaningful family relationships, promote amicable settlements, mitigate potential harm caused by the process. That sounds awesome if they follow it. That's the real problem. Um, sometimes it's better to read the written law instead of listening to whatever somebody wants to say. It's just like business. You don't just talk about business. You don't do a deal, talk about it, and make it sound good, and don't put anything in writing. You know, that's the This is the easy way to get into troubles. Okay, everything's gotta be in writing. Everything's gotta show the rules. Gotta be in writing. Everything's gotta be in writing. Um, the law, if you read the law, is fair, is good to go. The problem is to get the authorities to recognize your rights, your parental rights. Okay? And actually, just to follow these guidelines. These are the first guidelines. This is the first thing you're gonna see if you read this chapter. You know what I mean? Um, and then it happens in every business, not in every business, but in every trade. Um, if you go to school, you're gonna be taught the books. You're gonna be taught what is in writing, the real basis for things, right? But once you go out into the field, you're gonna find out that a lot of things that are in writing have nicknames outside that are different from what you see in writing. There is a reason for this. You know what I mean? It creates confusion and and but there is a reason for this. You're always gonna find, once you go out of the school, you're gonna find a lot of things are named differently on the field. It just gives more power to the professional. At the end of the day, it just gives more power to the professional, because the professional knows um, the professional knows what he's talking about, because he knows the field and he knows the books. But somebody who just reads the books and go out into the field and find all this jargon, gets lost, gives more power to the professional to keep control of the trade. That's what it is. That's what it is about. So you have this, best interest of the child thing that's not clearly defined, or whatever they use. No, because the court, we only care about the best interest of the child. The best interest of the child, okay, I'm gonna tell you about the best interest of the child. The best interest of the child is to preserve the integrity of the marriage, to safeguard meaningful family relationships, to promote the amicable settlement, and to mitigate the potential harm caused by the process. That's the best interest of the child, in my opinion. Okay, it's on writing. Okay, but that's the way I look at it. They want to create that confusion, and so that whatever they say goes. But this is what is in writing. This is the real purpose. This is the core of this process. Okay, preserve the integrity of the marriage, safeguard meaningful family relationships, promote amicable settlements, mitigate the potential harm caused by the process. It's simple as that. Okay? You have your oath, you want to follow your oath, follow what is in writing. This is written law. Okay? So, let's keep on going. So, again, you see, parental rights. Parental rights, you can read it right there. It's on the um, law, right? But see, notice that. Look at the chapter. This is 1014, chapter 1014. Wait a second. Divorce is chapter 61. So parental rights are not even part of the divorce chapter. Just think about it. They're not. Well, but they're part of the law. Um, it is what it is. So they want to pick and choose. That's fine. But we want to let you know that we know how the law is written. Okay? All parental rights are reserved to the parent of the minor child. In this state, without obstruction or interference from the state. Alright? Right to direct education, upbringing, moral, religious training, and everything else that is underlined right here. Okay? What is funny about that, because When I was studying the divorce process and going through the chapters and everything, I knew I had that intuition. It's gotta be somewhere. And it took me a long time to find it because it was not on the divorce chapter, of course. Okay? Um, so one day I'm looking for something else. I had an issue and I needed to go through some laws and whatever, and I was looking through the chapters. But I'll tell you about the story later. So let's focus on what really matters. Let's talk about the divorce factors, because in the divorce, as far as I have studied this chapter, is um, analyzed by parental right no by divorce factors. Okay, so you have divorce factors. Okay, shared parental responsibility is the best interest of the minor child. Okay, in writing, finding under the relevant factors under section of 61.13 of the Florida statutes. Okay, and so that's gonna tell you it's like a formula, it's like math. You know, there is a guideline, it's a checklist. Like when you go do an inspection, you have a checklist. mm, You mark everything. If everything is right, then you're good to go. Okay. Um, they give you one by one the factors, and where do you fall based on each factor. Okay. Factor A: disposition of each parent to facilitate and encourage a close and continued parent-child relationship. So here it is. See, don't blame it on the woman. The woman right here, the way I look at it, and this legal system or whatever, even in the social media, that people like to blame the woman for everything. Don't blame the woman. Blame the people who are supposed to enforce the law, because it's right here. It's the main factor. It's the number one factor, and from the divorce factors, disposition of each parent to facilitate and encourage a close and continued parent-child relationship. You know, okay, if somebody doesn't like the other parent to be around the child, then that parent gets a strike. It's as simple as that. But if the authority doesn't want to put the strike on the woman because it's a woman, then the problem is not the woman. The problem, you know what it is. Okay? Same thing. You can keep going. Best interest of my child is paramount and primary consideration of the court. But let's see how they do this. You know what I mean? So, um, and here we go. It keeps going. Anticipated division of parental responsibilities. Um, that's one point to take into consideration. Next point to take into consideration: to act upon the needs of the child as opposed to the needs or desires of the parent. See? Now, where's the real problem? The problem is to find people who can justly or fairly apply the law. If we don't have people who can be unbiased handling the system, then then don't point fingers, please. Because some people point the father, some people point the mother. No, no, no. All right. Who's the one in charge of looking at all these guidelines and making sure they're being followed or they're being applied correctly? It's as simple as that. But nobody talks about that. Why? Because you know what it is. Power. Nobody wants to um, nobody wants to hold power accountable, because nobody wants to face power. It's as simple as that. But We call them public servants, but we are the servants. You know what I mean? Um, Look at this. Geographic viability of the parenting plan. You know what I mean? In my case, it found the neutral. Don't understand how they figured that out. It's as simple as that. Geographic viability of the parenting plan. If the kid gotta go from point A to point B, and point A is 3 hours away from point B, then there is a problem. Okay? But when point A is 5 or 10 minutes away from point B, then you're gonna say it's neutral? Okay. I don't know who analyzed that, but whatever. Um, um, Again, fighting against the bias is the real problem here. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to illustrate this as clearly as possible. Moral fitness of the parents. So you can go one by one. You can make if you have like a test and you have 25 questions and you're good with 23 out of 25, then what is your grade? Simple as that. You know? Um, just keep on going, quickly going. Both parents appear in good physical, mental health, the community, reasonable preference of the child, if the child has enough age for that, right? Disposition of each parent to be informed of the circumstances of the minor child, provide consistent routine for the child, discipline daily schedules, demonstrated capacity to keep the other parent informed of issues and activities, willingness of each parent to adopt an unified front. All of this can be analyzed, and if you see, look, just just think about everything I'm telling you here, and everything you hear on social media. You know what I mean? They blame the woman. They say no because the mother sometimes they just wanna drag the kids away just for money, this and that, whatever. That's against the law. Who's in charge of, you know what I mean, enforcing the law? If they are playing bias and, you know, just doing whatever they want, then don't blame it on the woman. It's not the woman's problem, man. If she has an issue, she has an issue. That's fine. But the law clearly addressed that, and then they promoting like a reform in legislation. You know what that means? That means changing the law, but the law is already right. We're gonna get into trouble if we let these people, because the people who want to change the law, they might trick you at the end of the game. So I'm telling people, keep your eyes open. Okay, evidence of domestic violence, sexual violence, child abuse, child abandonment, child neglect, not an issue. You know what I mean? Evidence that either parent has knowingly provided false information, particular parenting tasks performed, demonstrated capacity and disposition to participate and to be involved, environment of the child free of substance abuse, you know, um, um, parent to protect the child from ongoing litigation, uh, developmental stages and needs of the child. So that's it. Once you go through all these factors, you do the math. Okay, he got this good, he got this bad, she got this good, she got this bad. He's got, um, this goes all the way to letter T. You know what I mean? Um, he got so many, let's say 18 out of 20. She got, you know, let's say 18 out of 22, and so okay, it all looks good, and the parental rights uh, already there say that they both have rights, so let's make it equal, and that's it. We're talking about the law here. You can always go to mediation, if you want to be flexible and be understanding, show some love to the other person, and be reasonable, then you can do that, and you don't have to go through this test, because that's what it really is. You have to pass this test and then face the judgment. Um, let's see, and then this is what I want to show you before. Okay, so this is the all the chapters in the Florida Statutes, and that one that copy was from 2022 when I took that one. You can see every chapter and what is related to from beginning to end, right? So we're talking about chapter 61 for divorce. All right, so that falls into civil practice and procedures. Um, and that's where you're gonna go. This is a long chapter, but the law is about everything. When you go into the law, it's a lot of books. Um, but here I am into the civil practice and procedure, reading about the divorce and all the factors and everything that goes into the. But the parental rights was taken away from the divorce. Okay, so my intuition said it's gotta be written somewhere. I need to find it, and it took me years to find it because it was not there. Um, and then I was looking for something else. I don't know what it was. Um, it was some type of business, and then I was looking through the law, and I'm looking. You can look everything here. Tax, planning, homestead, public business, veterans, transportation, social welfare. Everything you want. And so I'm looking and looking, going up and down, all about, and right at the end I see parental rights, and I say like, what? Right at the end. You know how far you have to go to get the parental rights? They don't really want you to find that. That's what I think. I don't know. And it's funny. But let's just keep it on. So here again, parental rights. This is what it is. Um, hopefully you don't have too many issues to get that awarded to you. But if you have no problems with the divorce factors, there is no reason why they they could take that away from you, because it's your legal right. Okay. Um, then they have their oath, office of administrator. I took that picture from that one was from New York City, but everybody who signs to be an officer under the government, it's gotta have its own oath, especially a judge. Okay. Um, and then look, then we faced. Look at the kid. Abandonment. Abandonment is punished by law. Okay, but abandonment is similar to child isolation, which is what they do. They isolate you from the child, and in their eyes that's okay, but you saw the purpose of the chapter, the divorce chapter, versus what's happening. Abandonment is being is you abandon your kid, you're gonna get punished. But you don't abandon your kid and they isolate your child from you. It's the same thing. Whatever. I'm just trying to throws online. I'm just thinking some of my reasoning, just sharing some of my reasoning here. Um, then again, best interest of the child. What is the best interest of the child? Preserve the integrity of the marriage, safeguard meaningful family relationships, promote the amicable settlement, mitigate the potential harm caused by the process. Simple as that. But, we have the fight of the spirit. We have the fight of the spirit, which I could talk about later, but I know what is right, but I don't want to do it, and I have the power and the authority, and I'm gonna make this happen. Whatever. Everything has a reason, but we don't have time to talk about everything. We have time to talk about the parental rights, what they mean, what this process is about, what the purpose of this chapter is, and parental rights. That's all I want to talk about. You know? So the law is correct. Forget about changing legislation. You're gonna see that all in social media. People about talking. We need to change the law. This and that. Well, how about following the law? How about following the law? How about following the law? Isn't it easier to follow the law? But I know what happens here. Again, there is a hidden agenda. Okay, that the authorities are following. Okay, and nobody wants to face power. Nobody wants to go against power or fight power. Power is power and it's gonna step over everything else, okay? And nobody wants to be in the way of that. And that's the real thing. You know, Mr. Authority, we know you don't want to follow the law. So how about if we adjust the law to be the way you want it to be? That sounds more where everything is going, but I'm just saying it a little bit clearer, more clearly. You know what I mean? And then the social media, what? They're just trying to. It's just in the way I look at it, they're just trying to get people on board. Once they get people on board, it's gonna happen. But what's gonna happen after they change the law, you're gonna see that later. So open your eyes if you don't want to get caught into something else. You saw it in Venezuela, you saw it in so many countries. This is the greatest country. We need to be a little bit smarter than this. Okay, the law is well written. We follow the law, and there's no problem. Now, if we want to play changing the law because there is some hidden agenda, whatever that needs to happen. I don't know, man. I don't know what's happening. I'm just guessing here. Okay, so that is fit, willing, and able. So what are you gonna do when that is fit, willing, and able? What are you gonna do? But if they don't like that, then that's a problem. Maybe that doesn't fit the good old boys, you know, um, stereotype that they want. I don't know. So let's keep it going. But I'm still here. I'm not running away. What's your concern? You know what I mean? That's what happens. I'm gonna talk a little bit about that in the next, once I pass to the next live. Alright? I'm here. I'm not running away. I'm facing the problem. What's your concern? I know what the written law says, and I know what you're doing. How are we gonna solve this problem? Please, let's get to a middle point. I just want to be fair in here. Don't enforce injustice. Don't enforce injustice. That's my point. Okay? Okay, then the false allegation. False allegation because it is a strategy. Okay? You know, they'll say all day long that, false allegations are managed differently, on the family court and the criminal court. The criminal court is I don't remember exactly the legal terms, but it's more like you have to prove it versus um, family court that the woman can say whatever and it becomes true, even if it's a false allegation. I don't know how that works, man. I don't know who invented that law or what it is in writing. I really would like to see it in writing, but it's not. Like I said, it's just the way it is, right? But let me tell you how false allegation work. Okay, that's what I call fake reality. Fake reality, because think about it. Somebody comes in the court, says something that is not true, and the court automatically acknowledge it like if it was true, and they will not even look at your um, evidence to disprove the false allegation. That's another thing. Because if somebody comes with a false allegation and you come up with evidence that disprove the false allegation, then the false allegation should go away, right? But that's the difference. You can do that in criminal cases, but in family cases, they don't even look at your evidence. They're like, I don't care. I believe the woman, even if you have evidence to prove otherwise. We're gonna do whatever we want, and that's a real problem because there is a public trust. There's a public trust. Once a judgment is given on certain case, people are not gonna review all the details. They trust in that the judge is doing the right thing. But if they're not doing the right thing, how do you know? You understand my point? And then once the judgment is put in, people take it as justice, even if it's injustice. You get it? And then here's how it works. Once the people think that the judgment is just, now you don't not even have the pressure of the judgment, but you have the pressure of the people who think that the judgment is just when it is unfair in reality. Just think about what I just said, please. I don't know if it's confusing, but that's what it is. Um, we just need to get people to follow. And the thing is, the problem is, the legal system is supposed to be supervised by the citizens. Like the citizens are the the owner of the system, and the system employees are the servants. But the thing is, everybody's so burned out, you know, chasing their tail, trying to make the money to pay their bills and doing that. They don't even have time to sit down on a court hearing just to see what how they're handling processes and this and that. They don't have supervision. They don't. They don't. People don't have time for that. And they handle the money too. You know what I mean? Where do you think all this media bias coming from? Who's paying these people to be all day posting stuff that is bias? That's a job. Who works for no money? I don't know. So I'll let you think about it. You know? So they don't take accountability. At the end of the day, is whatever they say, whether it's in the law or not in the law. You know what I mean? If it's not in the law, we're gonna make a law. We're gonna fix the legislation, okay? Um, follow their own, follow your own rules. You already saw it, purpose of the chapter, and the factors, they speak by themselves. I'm just showing you what I know. I'm not a lawyer, okay? So, why do you want to change what is not broken? Why do you want to change what is not broken? If you work for a rehab company, or you are a rehab company and you take a place and you're gonna rehab it and you're gonna replace what is bad and also what is good, then you're not into business. You're not into real business. Why do you want to change what is not broken? Okay, let me tell you about a story. So I had the judgment deal, whatever happened back in the days. Then we had the issue with the virus, whatever. We have this issue, right? And I'm thinking to myself, man, I mean, it's bad for the whole world, but in my case, it's actually good because I'm next to my son right here, and I can actually provide him with assistance, whatever. I can show my value now. See, this is me saying, like, let me show you my value. You know what I mean? And so, the schools are closed. You remember that there was a shutdown for everybody, and everybody was online, and no contact with anybody and whatever. But you know what? Um, in my case, mom needed help. Um, and this time I'm talking about taking care of the kid and this and that, because whatever situation there was at that time. But allowing me to be part of the uh, part of the solution at that point would actually enforce my side of the argument, which was not what 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 she wanted. And guess what? They decided to send my kid to school when most of the kids, were taking their classes online. Okay? So, look, so I went to school. This is what they used to have in the schools. I looked at all the statistics. There was only 25% of the kids that remained in school because not everybody was able to keep the kids on the house. Even during the lockdown, like I said, we have to hold, we're the one who hold the whole community, the whole country. We work, we make the money, we pay taxes, so the government has money. But we're the one who hold everything. And not everybody has the ability to keep up with their bills and do everything they have to do. So yes, the schools were open for 25% of the kids that, parents couldn't take care of everything. You know what I mean? You understand? So here I got some pictures of things that I saw back on that day, and this one was a good one. This advertising right here. Every child, every chance, every day. Every child, every chance, every day. You know, please continue to monitor our website and social media platforms for updates. Look at it. Please continue to monitor our website and social media platforms for updates. And guess what I did? That's what I did. I looked at everything. I read everything. I follow up. I'm on a mission. You know what I mean? So here you go. I'll go through the website, find the information. Here you go. All the schools on the county, okay? And it shows quarantine students, positive students, quarantine school personnel, positive school personnel, and it shows you all the numbers. And numbers is what I'm about. I love numbers, and I can figure out stuff, right? So I go through all the information, I go through all the database, look how many numbers you got, and there you got 40 here, 29 there, 2 here, 1 there. You can make the numbers, you know what I mean? So you're really putting yourself into a situation of danger right here, you know? Why? Because you want to get away. And I can prove it because there is statistics, there are reports, there are real numbers. It's real things happening in here. I mean, there are real things happening in here. We remember that time. See? Look at the numbers. I'm gonna go again. Look at the numbers. Even 60 in this case. You know what I mean? 14, 2 here, 3 there. Why do you want to be in a situation in danger when you don't have to take the chance? Okay, here it is. And I have a really good story about the this this season. I mean, this is just something I'm showing here, just throwing some, just showing you how it works. You know what I mean? Look, okay, I'm gonna go through it. I'm gonna show you how this is gonna end. Okay, so because I'm making my point, I'm sending all this information to the court, showing my point, showing my stand. This is, I'm standing on my ground. You know what I mean? Stand on your ground, stand on your ground, stand on your ground. Show it. Show the proof. Okay? Now you're the authority, you know what is right, I guess. That's why you're there, right? So I'm showing you. I'm showing you facts, you know? So let me show you what's gonna happen. I'm just showing you. Once I started sending all this information to the court, making my claims, writing letters, doing motions, and all of that, they cannot, they cannot argue that with me. They know they're gonna lose that argument every single time. Especially if we go to the court and we go to a hearing and they're recording that, that's gonna be recorded. You know what I mean? I'm not a lawyer, but I'm smart enough to put the facts together and put it on their face. And what they're gonna say is gonna stay recorded. So no, they don't want me to go to court to explain them what they already know because they know what they're doing. You know what I mean? What happens? They shut down the whole site. And this is me after I went to court, after I did everything, after I sent the letters, after I sent the facts, after I put the claim. Let's go to court. Let's talk about it in the court. Let's make a formal debate about this. What happens? Everything went away. Sorry, this site is not currently available. No more reports after that. That's how the system works. Just giving you an idea of what's happening. You know what I mean? So see, public record request. Sorry, this site is currently unavailable. You're too much of a, you know what I mean, problem for us right now. Goodbye. So, um, who's controlling the system? I don't know. That's another topic. So you can see it here. This is actually the order on emergency motion that I created. This is the judge replying to me. You know what I mean? And denied. Emergency situation is such as where the child is threatened with harm. So, okay, what is, okay, you saying that this is not harmful? Are you telling me that this is not harmful? Is that what you're really telling me now? See how things change? You know how many people were forced to do stuff because of harm? And then you're gonna tell me that this is not harmful? Come on, man, please. Take take that home with you, please. Okay? So guess what happened? I did put a claim. I did put a claim. I did put uh, a complaint, and this judge got actually removed. He got removed from my case. He got removed from that whole family court. He's somewhere else. I don't know. Um, and then look what happened to me. Guess what? Every court case is public records, man. Every court case is public records. And then once I go into my public records, I can't even see it. They're not public anymore. Locked. Now I have to register and sign an agreement because my records, I cannot see it. Are you serious? Bro, I've been years using the system. I've been years using this court system. And I've been using it for years, looking at staying on top of my records and my case and this and that, and out of the sudden, it doesn't work. Why? Oh, your public records now are our records. So you gotta get permission from the courthouse to see your own records because now my records are the courthouse records, not my records. It's not public. Why? They know what they're doing. I mean, I'm not blaming nobody. I mean, there might be something else going on, but the thing is, out of the sudden, I need to sign an agreement to see my own records. Okay, so where is the mishandling? I don't know. I don't know where's the mishandling here. And then user responsibilities. Do not use or permit others to use the information obtained from this site. You think I'm gonna sign this? I went to school, man, for a reason. I went to school for a reason, Bobby. If you wanna make my paperwork your paperwork, and now I gotta be signed and agree that this and that and whatever, you know what? I agree to not sign this and you can keep it. Okay? And then now they're talking about three strikes, changing legislation, three strikes law. But the problem with this legislation that I see, you know, this is a procedure that is being used with criminals, repeat offenders. Let's say the authorities determine whatever, and the person that is supposed to follow directions doesn't follow directions and is a repeat offenders, they pretty much amplify the penalties. So now they're trying to do this in the family court, amplifying penalties for people who don't agree with the decisions of the authorities. But when the authorities are not following written law, how are you supposed to follow that? Okay, and if they change legislation and they make it to where they can amplify the penalties, or say they're gonna amplify the penalties for injustice, is that what it is? Because right now this is a chess game. This is a chess game, and the woman is the pawn. That's the way I look at it. The woman is the pawn. They use the woman to basically um, how can I justify whatever they're doing. But you gotta see the facts to really tell justice from injustice. If you don't see the facts, you don't know. And then if they're gonna amplify the penalties, man, then we're gonna get real trouble in here. You know what I mean? Like I said, this is a chess game. And then the blaming game. And they blame the woman, and they blame the man, and they blame this. They blame everything but the real problem. That's what I see on social media. People making reasonings that doesn't make sense, and they it's more like it's more like a it's more like a way to deceive people. They try to convince you of something that is not what it really is. The woman is the pawn, is what they use. This is what we want you to see so that we can justify what we want. You know what I mean? Just follow the law. And the law, the way I read it, is perfect. What is not perfect is what is enforcing the law. You know, when I was in when I was when I was into engineering design, um, and we were using programs, calculation programs, and whatever, and sometimes you can tell when the result is wrong. You say like, look, we did something wrong because this cannot be the result, and we're looking for where we made the mistake, whatever. But the thing is, you know, I had a manager that used to tell me, look, man, I'll tell you this, don't, you know, because the law is like the program. The program has the algorithm. The law has the algorithm. If you use the algorithm correctly, you're gonna get the right result. Don't try to change the program. The program, most of the time, the program is right. You know what I mean? The problem is not the program or the computer. The problem might be between the computer and the seat. That's what my manager used to say. Sometimes you just gotta see that, you just gotta realize that the problem is not the computer, it's not the program, it's whatever is in between the computer and the seat. That's where you're gonna find the problem. It is what it is. I'll show you what I show you. Try to make sense. Um, and if I wanted to go a little bit a step farther, if I wanted to make an analogy or something that I could talk about later, but looking at this like a chessboard, I see the woman as the pawn. I see the social media, the people, the speakers, the this and that, people who convince people, people who are out to persuade people. Those are the bishop, the knight, and then they have the police enforcement, the law enforcement, then those are gonna be your towers. Okay? And that queen is the judicial council. That king, the problem right here, if you wanna win that game, you gotta beat the king. The king is the judgment. The judge who give you a bad judgment, that's the king. You gotta beat that judge, that judgment. You gotta prove that it's unfair. You gotta prove, but this is a real trouble. That's a real trouble because nobody wants to face power. Until you beat that judgment, you're on the hook. You wanna win the game, you gotta beat the judgment. To beat the judgment, you gotta beat the judge, show the judge is incorrect. I'm gonna leave it at that. So, how are we gonna fix this? We need to be able to tell who's doing right, who's doing wrong. I truly believe in this society. I truly believe in America. I truly believe that we have the power to see what's right, what's wrong, remove what is wrong, change it for something that is right. We got a lot of people here that are capable of doing a good job, but they're just not in the right place. And it's the community who have the power to relocate the bad ones and to put in the good ones. And if we don't do that job, then we're gonna go all to the hole, or we all going to the same hole. That's as simple as that. We have a responsibility here other than paying bills and making sure we're raising the bank account. You know what I mean? Because that's what most people care about. But as a whole, if we don't take care of removing the evil, that's the whole point. Removing the evil, because everybody who does injustice is evil. For whatever reason they do it, injustice is never justice. And it is our duty to check on what's happening. I'm not biting into that thing of being changing laws. Like I said, if you read the law, it's good to go. In my opinion, I'll be accountable for my responsibilities the way the law is written right now. If they change it and make it the way they want it to be, I don't know. So let's take care of what we have. You know what I mean? Let's take care of what we have. Let's think about what we need to do. But that's all for it. That's all for today. Hopefully you like it or not like it. I mean, I'm not against anybody here. My whole point is, do what is right. And if you can't do what is right, then we need to be able to see that. And if we can't see that, I mean, I'm speaking here for justice. I'm speaking for justice, fairness, and what is written. If it's written in the law, it's because it's fair. Why do you want to change that? Don't change what is not broken.